What follows is a conversation totally generated by AI at Taimation Studios.
All right, so buckle up, Buttercup, because today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Rick and Morty.
That's right.
Specifically for you, listener, you wanted to unpack some of the surprisingly deep ethical questions this show throws our way.
It's amazing how the show can be so hilarious while simultaneously kind of freaking you out.
Absolutely, and we're going to be using a few key episodes that you, our listener, provided as our guide.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder if Rick is just a selfish jerk, or if there is something more to his whole, galactic perspective that he's always going on about, like in M. Night Shyamalan Aliens, when he says, it's more complicated out here. This isn't money. These are flurbos.
Yeah.
Is that just a cop-out, or what?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's something that comes up again and again in these episodes you've chosen.
Yeah.
This idea that Rick is operating on some completely different moral plane.
Yeah.
He consistently puts himself above what he considers to be lesser beings.
Right.
Which he uses to justify some pretty messed up actions.
When he sells a weapon to Crumbopulous Michael in Morty Night Run,
Oh, yeah.
who is an assassin who literally gets off on killing.
Right. It's like his favorite thing.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. And the worst part is he's got zero remorse. He doesn't care one bit. He just brushes off Morty's concerns about what that weapon could do, all the destruction it could cause. He's just focused on getting those flurbos for himself.
Yeah, it's all about Rick.
It's like conventional morality just doesn't apply to him. And that contrast between his disregard for those rules and the mayhem he unleashes, that's a huge part of what makes the show's exploration of ethics so interesting.
So he thinks he's above it all.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's not just, galactic assassins and stuff. Remember Meeseeks and Destroy? When Jerry asks for help with his golf game?
Oh, yeah. How could we forget?
And even that blows up in everyone's faces thanks to Rick.
Right. Because even with good intentions, Rick's inventions always seem to have these disastrous unintended consequences.
Yeah.
The Meeseeks just want to solve problems. Right? That's literally why they exist. But their entire existence is tied to achieving that goal.
Yeah.
So when they get stuck with something as frustrating as Jerry's golf swing.
Which, let's face it, is very frustrating.
It is. They become desperate. Unhinged, even. Imagine that pressure, though. Their sole purpose is to accomplish this one task. And until they do, they can't cease to exist.
Watch TV. That's awful. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
It's funny to watch, but also kind of terrifying when you actually think about it.
Definitely a cautionary tale in there somewhere.
Like a warning about what happens when you just let ambition run wild, especially with technology.
Exactly. And it all comes back to responsibility, something that Rick consistently avoids taking.
Because of course he does.
Well, in that same episode, he even tries to blame Morty for all the chaos caused by selling the weapon to Crumbopulous Michael.
He's unbelievable.
Right. So it really makes you think, what are the ethics of advanced technology like Rick's? I mean, does intelligence automatically equal moral superiority?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Is Rick really as smart as he thinks he is if he can't even grasp the basic concepts of right and wrong? What do you think?
Good question. Okay, so we've established Rick is less than a role model, morally speaking.
Definitely not winning any awards for Galactic Good Samaritan.
But how about Morty? I mean, he gets dragged into all this craziness, but he always seems to be the one who's actually struggling with. Is any of this okay?
Morty's journey is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
He goes from this naive kid just along for the ride to someone who's actually starting to think for himself morally.
Right.
And you see him really wrestling with the implications of what they do in a way that Rick never seems to.
Totally. Like in Morty Night Run, when he's so conflicted about saving Fart.
Oh, yeah.
You know that gas cloud guy?
Right.
Because he knows it could lead to even more violence. And he actually stands up to Rick about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a huge moment for Morty.
It is.
Because he's recognizing the value of life, even a weird gassy life like farts.
Yeah.
And he's willing to challenge Rick on his whole I don't care about anything attitude.
Which is a first.
It really is.
Yeah.
Although it is kind of funny when you think about it.
What's that?
Well, Morty's own moral compass isn't exactly always pointing due north.
Yeah.
How
so?
Well, think about Lawnmower Dog, right? When he completely loses it about Summer using Snuffles as a footstool.
Yeah.
I mean, this is right after they were just hanging out in the Centaur's pleasure chamber, so his priorities are a little skewed, to say the least.
I mean, he is still a teenager.
That's true.
Just trying to make sense of everything.
Exactly. And that's what makes him relatable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's constantly questioning everything, always changing his mind, making mistakes as he goes. I mean, it's not like there's some guidebook for navigating the multiverse.
True. Very true.
It just goes to show that moral development isn't some finish line you cross. It's more like this messy, lifelong process.
And speaking of messy, let's talk about Tales from the Citadel.
Oh, things are about to get weird.
This episode gives us a glimpse of what happens when you get a whole society of Ricks.
A recipe for disaster,
Pretty much. So we've seen Rick's questionable morals,
to say the least.
and Morty's struggle to be a better person in this crazy multiverse. But when we look at the Citadel in this episode, what's the takeaway for you?
Well, I think what's so interesting about the Citadel is that it takes all of Rick's worst impulses.
Yeah.
You know, his ego, his nihilism, his disregard for basically everything.
Right.
And it blows it up to a societal level.
Yeah, you're right. It's like what happens when everyone thinks they're a Rick.
Exactly. And the answer is not. You end up with this deeply messed up society.
Yeah, like with the whole Council of Ricks thing.
Oh, yeah. Talk about out of control power.
Living it up while everyone else is stuck in these dead-end jobs.
And don't forget about Morty Town.
Oh, God, yes, Morty Town.
It's like a monument to Rick's indifference.
It's really dark when you think about it.
It is. And then there's the simple Rick cook.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
They take this Rick's happiest memories and exploit them to make a product.
They're basically selling happiness.
Right, but it's this empty, artificial kind of happiness, completely stripped of any real meaning.
So messed up on so many levels.
It really makes you question our own relationship with consumerism, doesn't it? Like, how far would we go for a quick fix of happiness?
It's a scary thought.
It is. And of course, we can't forget about evil Morty.
Oh, man, even more.
Let's talk about a rise to power.
He becomes president by basically exploiting everyone's frustration with the Citadel.
Which is everyone's frustration with the Ricks.
Exactly. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
Right. Like, even in this society of supposed geniuses, someone can come in and manipulate the system.
Just goes to show you no system is perfect.
No system is safe from a Rick.
Well said. So I guess the big question is, after all this, is Rick and Morty just a nihilistic joyride?
Or a hilarious descent into madness.
Or is there something deeper going on?
Right. Like, is there a point to all this chaos and Honestly, I think that's up to each viewer to decide.
Fair enough. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of this show, isn't it?
Totally. You can enjoy it on the surface level, or you can really dig into those big existential questions.
And there are a lot of them.
Tons. But maybe that's the point, right? To make us think, to challenge our perspectives, even if there aren't any easy answers.
And to laugh along the way.
Of course. Because what's the point of a multiverse if you can't laugh at the absurdity of it all?
Very true. Well said. So there you have it, folks. We've explored the ethics of Rick,
Morty's moral journey.
and the chaotic brilliance of the Citadel.
We've questioned reality.
And maybe even learned a thing or two about ourselves along the way.
Maybe just
As always, we want to thank you, our amazing listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Rick and Morty. If you want more thought-provoking and hilarious deep dives, make sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a review.
And if you have any burning questions about your favorite shows, movies, or books, you know what to do.
That's right. Hit us up on social media or shoot us an email. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, stay
And
curious.
remember, nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
Just tie now. Just think about it. Combine your mind with your heart. See what your gut mind is saying and let whatever come out, come on out. Thank you for watching. Check out Just Tie, mushrooms.com, and the Just Tie Now store.com. Like and sub.